Hello, my squidlings. It's Katie here, and welcome back to another video. My camera doesn't want to focus. So today I have a really exciting video that I've been planning to do for a while, and it just hasn't happened yet, but today we are taking a trip to Italy. And in a minute you'll see what I'm talking about, but there's a watercolor trip inside this box, and I think it's going to be really fun, and I cannot wait to share it with you. And if you want to get your own trip to Italy, stay tuned for the video and I will tell you how you can actually win this. Not really win this, but get this. I'm hosting a giveaway for your very own watercolor painting book. We'll go over this in a minute. But yeah, stay tuned in the video to find out how to get one. So the lovely folks that do these at Inspirea.com reached out to me and they asked if I wanted to test this out and do something with it. And I thought it was really exciting, so of course I said yes, because watercolors, why not, right? So let's open the box. So the box is really nicely put together. It's got, well, first off, the book I just showed you, the watercolor book. And then it also has some watercolor dots in the various colors that we're going to be painting with in this. And then of course I have another one of these so I can do it too. And then in the bottom portion of the box we've got even more stuff, so we have more paint in case we run out. We have some paint brushes, which I think is really nice. These are, I have no idea what brand these are. These are not common to me, but we've got a number 2 round and a number 4 round. We've also got quite a few what I assume to be swatch cards. They're just watercolor paper. Looks like cold pressed too, so I'm excited. And then in this tissue paper we have got 2 things. We've got a stick of wax, if I can show you. Got a stick of wax right here. This is actually some Royal Talons like masking fluid. So we have all of these supplies, and I believe that is it. But yeah, we got a bunch of stuff in the box, and we're actually going to do one of these lessons and kind of see how it pertains. But first, one thing I do know is that they have some techniques right here that you can try out on your own. So they tell you how to do them, and then you can do them over here on this side. And then they have some other keywords that they might be using throughout the book. Then they have even more stuff. They kind of just show you some abbreviations of the colors, and then, you know, how they mix different sky colors and make clouds and all that stuff. So be really handy. And then we've got lessons. I'm going to pick out a lesson really quick. But first off, I'm going to do all of these. Then we're going to pick a lesson and we're going to do it together. And I think we're going to do it in real time. So I hope you're excited. Alright, so the instructions on the first step tell us to go ahead and mask off the water and the windowsills. So I'm going to take this masking fluid and we're going to start on this side. They actually give you 2 examples, which I think is really cool. So you can practice on one and do something more final on another, or you can just do it twice and get the most out of it. So first off, I'm going to start by masking out this water. And then I'm also going to mask off the windowsills over here. Alright, now that that is all masked off, I'm going to let this dry, and then we're going to come back and finish the rest of the steps on step 1. Now that the area of masking fluid has been dried, you can tell because it's a completely different color, we're going to move on to step 2, and that says to wash the sunny side of the back wall, which is this wall here, with a mix of YO and CY. It's got these 2 little raindrops or drops of water, which means to add an average amount of water. Then it says then wash partly into wet with CR, using a lot less water. So we're going to do that, but first I'm going to mix up my paint. So it says the first one is to mix YO with CY. So we're going to pick up yellow ochre because it's YO. And then I'm also going to pick up some CY, which is cadmium yellow. I'm gonna make like this really warm kind of yellow, and it says to use about an average amount of water. Alright, so now that we've mixed that up, I'm going to wash over the sunny side of the back wall, and we are using this photo right here as a reference. So we're just gonna kind of cut it right here. And since we have masking fluid on, I'm not going to be super careful because it shouldn't bleed through it. It's going to go all down the back of this. And see, right now, we're okay with being a little messy. It's the thing I love about watercolor. And then it says, wash partly into wet CR, which is my cadmium red. So I'm going to grab a little bit of that, not too much. And I'm just going to kind of dab it in, just kind of how they show on this picture here. Actually, I think I might have gotten a little too much, so we're just going to kind of drop in some water. Yes, there is a cat hair right there. That's okay though. So we're just going to leave that alone. Actually, I lied. I'm going to add a little bit more water. And the yellow mixture, because this isn't going as orange as I want it to, so now we're going to leave it. The next step is to wash the shadowed area of the back wall, which is this area right here, with ultramarine and yellow ochre, a mix of that, and it has to be very watery. So I'm going to hurry up and mix that. I'm not doing much of my mixing on camera here, and I am very sorry. So we're going to go ultramarine. Whatever paint that they put on this is really nice. And they want some yellow ochre. Ooh, it makes a really nice shadow color. And we want it to be really watery, so we're just going to kind of plop that right in here. I want this to be a little darker. There we go. Alright, next step, what is it? Wash the front wall, which I believe is this one right here, with RU and YO, which is raw umber and a mix of yellow ochre. and they want it to be, oh, it doesn't say how watery or not watery it should be. So we're just going to do kind of like a regular wash of that. I'm actually really liking this tutorial just for all of these paint mixes because I never knew about some of them and they're really nice. And then it says add some ultramarine on the top. So on the very top here, as you can see in this photo, we're going to add it up there. So I'm going to kind of wash this wall, get a little more water so I can get it more washy. I like these paintbrushes too that they give. I feel like this should be a little bit more brown, but I'm not getting the brown I want. I'm gonna grab some burnt umber. And then the top says to add some ultramarine, but that does not look ultramarine. It looks like this mix we made over here for the shadowed area. So that's what I'm going to put in here. The nice thing is with this, I'm going to pause real quick and talk, is that if you see something that's maybe different from over here or just the way you want to paint it a little differently, the nice thing is the world is your oyster and you can do it. The fifth step is to wash the area under the door with a mix of raw umber and ultramarine. So I'm going to make a mix of that really quickly. And I think it's just right here. I'm going to mix a little bit of that on the paper. Just because that's how I feel like painting. And then the sixth step is to wash the window frames with a mix of violet, cadmium yellow, and cadmium red. Oh, I think it means inside these windows here. So I'm going to make a mix of that really quick. And they want this to be an average amount of wateriness. And I'm just going to do how they show in the picture because I'm not really sure what they want from me. Just kind of like with the loose hand, I'm just going to plop that in there. And then the last step on this first step is to darken the left window, which is this one over here, with a mix of raw umber and ultramarine. We already have a mix of that, but I want to do something a little different. I'm going to plop this in here, and then I'm going to add the ultramarine right on top, because I think mixing on the paper gives more interesting effects. But we're also going to take some of that mix I created earlier and just plop them in. Alright, so now I'm going to let this dry, then we're going to come back and move on to the step 2. Alright, so now that we're moving on to step 2 over here, the first step in step 2 is to use circular strokes and the flat side of the paraffin wax to partly rub the walls and bricks. So I'm going to take the wax, I went ahead and took off the little sticker, and I'm just going to kind of make some marks. And I'm going to be super loose about it. I really don't care. Like, I care, if that makes sense, but I want it to be as messy and kind of like wall texture-y as possible. So just kind of going in there and wipe off some of the excess wax. And then it says use Watercolor to wash the back wall. Now, Watercolor was a technique way back here. I'm going to reference it really quickly. Let's see. So it was this one, add a variety of colors to the same area for example, windows. So we're going to flip back. The nice thing is we've got that bit of reference. And they want us to use raw umber, madder lake deep, and yellow ochre. Also, while I get my brush wet, I found out that these are actually Van Gogh paints, and I'm thoroughly impressed with them. So I'm going to be using a mix of the colors I just said, and we're just gonna kind of paint on the back wall. And we're just going to kind of add the colors as we go. And let it mix and stuff. I feel like I did a very bad job using this wax, but that's okay. You learn as you go. And we're just going to be doing that to the rest of this part of the back of the wall here. We're leaving the shadowed area alone for now. We'll be coming back to that in a minute. Actually, I'll be coming back to that pretty soon, actually. Going to go ahead and just let this mix on the paper. And then we're going to go into the shadowed area with Madder Lake Deep, Ultramarine, and Violet, and we're going to be defining how dark that is. And we're also going to be using Watercolor on that, so just pretty much the same technique I just did. I'm going to start with Violet. I always get into this. Let's see if I can tap it up a little bit. That's okay. I'm sure we'll go over it soon enough. And then, yeah, we're just gonna throw some paint on here. I really like how loose and messy this kind of allows me to be. It feels really nice. I do feel like these paints are a little too saturated to be shadow color. So something I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of burnt umber in here. Actually, I should probably add raw umber. You know what? I'm going to add raw umber in here. Just kind of dab it in a little bit to mute these colors down. And I'm going to do the exact same to this other side here. Just add some raw umber. Alright, so now it says to pre-wash the water area. Pre-wash means to just get it wet with clear water, but I am going to let this shadowed area dry just because I really don't want my water area mixing with that. Alright, now it's time to pre-wash this water area, so I'm just going to go over all of it with a layer of just clear water. Alright, and then it says wash the water. Background will be a mix of Viridian, Ultramarine Blue, and Yellow Ochre. And I think they don't want you to mix it on the page. I actually think they want you to mix it on this card here. So that is what I'm going to do. And we're just going to kind of plop that in here. And I'm just kind of generally going by the guide that they've given us, so we're going to do that. The next one is a mix of Viridian, Yellow Ochre, and Olive Green. And we're going to be doing that in the foreground. So I'm going to do this on the sides here, just kind of how it shows us again in the picture. Then it says add colors, water, wet into wet. We can add burnt umber. Just now realizing I've been putting violet in some of the areas where I should be putting burnt umber. Oh, well, it actually kind of works, so I'm not really upset. A little bit of Madder Lake Deep. And a little bit of olive green as well. And we're just going to let those colors kind of play with each other on the page. And I add a little bit more water because I feel like these are going to be really saturated and I don't want that. And I'm also going to add a little bit more ultramarine back here to make it a little darker. And then we're going to let that dry. Alright, so the next step is to darken the area below the window or the wall on this left side. So we're just going to take a mix of burnt umber, Madder Lake Deep, and olive green, which I've already mixed, and I'm just going to darken this area right here. Then it said wash the shadowed part of the left wall with what colors? Raw umber and ultramarine. I love this mix. Definitely a mix I want to use on my palette. And I'm not really sure which part they want me to darken up, so I can see that it's the bottom here for sure. Oh, I added way too much water. You're gonna dab that up a little bit and try it again. Because the whole left wall is in shadow, so we're just gonna kind of dab it like in the picture here. Because that's what it looks like they did. They just kind of dabbed in this color very lightly. This wall definitely looks more like wall texture. Alright, except I think I used a little too much in this area because it's not getting paint in it at all. Maybe we'll do something a little darker here. Then it says to wash the shadows on the stone frame with a mix of ultramarine, Madder Lake, and a little bit of yellow ochre. I'm not totally digging this purple color. There we go. But first, I'm going to take this mask off. This does not actually come with the set. This is mine. This is a rubber pickup, and I'm just going to be picking this up. Alright. So we're going to take that mix and we're going to just very lightly add in the shadows to this. That looks to be the wrong color, but that's okay, we're going to work with it. Then it says to wash the doorstep. I'm not entirely sure what part of this is supposed to be a doorstep. Also, I'm going to make this a little darker so you can see the separation from the wall a little better. And I'm actually going to add in a little tiny bit, this was not a tiny bit, of indigo. I'll water that down significantly. I'm going to use this really light mix to go ahead and wash in here as well. It says to darken the bottom of the walls, so I'm going to take a mix of raw umber and ultramarine, which is always that nice lovely color. And we're just going to darken the bottoms of these really quick. I keep making that bigger, and I need to stop. Going to clean up some of my edges here, because I'm not entirely liking how they're looking. There we go, that's a little better. And then I'm also going to darken up this wall here, and I'm going to try to be a lot more careful. Actually, you know what? That indigo is still wet, so we're just going to leave it alone. Alright, the whites have been picked up. And now the next thing is to partly blur the edges of the highlights. So we're going to actually just take a clean, wet brush and kind of just gently go over the edges of these so they're not as harsh. And I'm going to be dabbing off on my paper towel quite a lot. You know what? This smaller brush would be a lot better for this. Then it says to lift the reflections of the door on the water. I'm not very good at lifting, so we're going to try our best. So how to lift, you just get a clean brush and you just go over where you've been previously, and then you dab it up with a paper towel. I've never really been super successful with lifting techniques, so we're trying. Hey, that doesn't look so bad. Alright, now we're moving on to step number 3. The first step in that is to darken the left window with indigo and a mix of burnt umber. And we're just going to be going onto the side here. To darken it up a little bit. And then it says to wash the inner part of the arch with ultramarine and yellow ochre. So we're going to make like a nice greenish color. And we're going to wash the inner part of this. And then it says to add shadows to the frame on the right with a mix of burnt umber and violet. We're actually using violet. Pretty sure it's the first time we were supposed to use violet. And I'm just dumb. And then we're supposed to add some accents to the left wall with a mix of violet, burnt umber, and Madder Lake Deep. Then it says to use Watercolor, so that means we're going to be adding multiple colors in one section. To add waves on the water, we're going to be using Viridian, Raw Umber, more Viridian, a mix of Viridian and Raw Umber, and a mix of Viridian and Ultramarine. And we don't want this to be near as wet, so we want this to be kind of a, not a dry mix, but we don't want a ton of water mixed in with this because we're going to be wanting to make waves. I'm also going to be using my thinner brush to do so. I'm going to blur out some of these waves because I think I made too many and they're starting to look like tiger stripes. So I'm just going to add some water on top and kind of blur them out a little bit. Actually, I'm going to take my paper towel and dab up a little bit too because again, I think I added too many. Not really sure how my wave attempt is going, but that's okay. It certainly could look worse. Then it says to use Watercolor to wash highlights on the water using a mix of yellow ochre, ultramarine, and lemon yellow. I don't really know why we're washing highlights, but okay. I don't think this is going to go over too well, but I'm doing it. But I'm being a lot more sparse this time. Then it says to add details onto the windows, so we're going to be, well, they didn't give us a color mix, so I'm just going to mix my own colors. I'm going to be adding the little railing here. I'm also going to be, apparently I missed a step because we're almost done and I still haven't washed this area. So we're just going to go ahead and throw that on there. And honestly, same with this one. And then I'm going to take some ultramarine and indigo and a little bit of viridian, and I'm just going to make some lines on here. I know these are supposed to be white, but I think we're supposed to lift those details up, but they never specifically said. And then the last detail it says to do is to partly wash the sunny side of the stone frame with a mix of ultramarine blue and yellow ochre. I'm gonna kind of dab in some little accents here and there. And then soon enough, I'm actually just gonna call it done. I'm gonna make a few tweaks here and there, but that's not too surprising. Just want to darken up some parts. I'm losing this window back here. I need to let it dry. Alright, well, I'm going to call this done. This was really fun, and it doesn't look the best. I'll be the first to say it. But it was really fun, and I don't think I followed the instructions like to a T or anything. Actually, while I'm talking, I'm gonna add in a few little details, but you know, it was a fun little experiment and experience, and I'm just happy that I did it. One thing I do want to kind of side note is I do wish the instructions were a little more clear. Some of them were kind of vague, and I was kind of missing over some steps. So I do wish they were a little bit more clear on some of the steps, but other than that, this was really fun, and I learned a lot of new techniques that I didn't think I would ever learn, like some mixes and stuff that I really liked. And I do plan on doing the rest of this book. I don't know how long it'll take me, but I did really like it, and it was really fun. And if you're looking for your own watercolor trip to Italy, I would definitely go check out their store. I will leave it in the description down below. They've got more than just Italy though. I know that they've got a France one. They've got like 4 or 5 different books out there that you can color and all that stuff. So, you know, the watercolor paints were really nice. The watercolor paper did buckle a little bit, but that's okay. And I really like how they separate behind here. Like you can see all of this buckling. But I like how they separate the papers. So if you do what I did and get some paint on the other page, you're not ruining anything, so that's really nice. This was thoroughly fun, and I don't think I've ever had this much fun painting a watercolor landscape. So yeah, again, if you're looking for your own little fun trip to wherever town, definitely click the link in the description. I want to go ahead and thank, I'm gonna butcher it again, but I think it's Inspiria.com. And Vitaly for reaching out to me and seeing if I wanted to do this. I had a lot of fun, like I've said 30 times. But yeah, I hope you guys like this format of video. I know it was long, but it was really fun for me to make and film. Probably not to edit, but that's a whole nother story. And yeah, I want to thank you all so much for watching. I also want to give a huge shout out to my patrons who make videos like this possible. Without their support, I have no idea where I would be. If you want to become a patron yourself, there will be a link on the screen. Also, don't forget, if you want to be a part of our Cute Squid Pod, there's a subscribe button down below. I also have social media in the description. And until next time, my adorable squidlings, toodaloo!